Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Miss.
Yes, madam, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening, madam.
Right. I think we have only 9. Why don't they join on time? Right. I think you can remember what we discussed last week in our lesson. Right? We studied the term philosophy and features of philosophy, and then the branches of philosophy, right? So you can understand why we study the term philosophy, because we are studying educational philosophy or education philosophy, right? Yes. Today we try to discuss the relationship between education and philosophy. Can you remember how we define the term philosophy? Can anybody remember? Huh? Right? Philosophy provides us the truth. Huh? And you know the 3 branches of philosophy and their interdependence nature. Like that, you should know what philosophy means. Right? Now today, we try to understand the relationship between education and philosophy. Okay. Right. I think you all can see the screen now.
Yes,
Can
madam.
you see? All right. Okay. Yes. Now, the objectives of the lesson today, you can see we have to explain the meaning and nature of education. You have to describe how philosophy and education are related to each other. You have to mention the meaning of the term educational philosophy. And you, as teachers, should know and should be able to explain the value of studying education philosophy, right? Right. Let's see how we discuss the term education as we discussed the term philosophy, right? The origin of it. Now here we just speak about the term education. It derives from Latin words, right? There are 3 related words here: educare, educate, and educatum, right? Educare. Educare means to rise up or bring up or nourish, right? All these are related to human nature, human lives, right? Now, if we speak further about the term education, according to the origin of it, right? Because you know the term education is used in the ancient era as well. And then you can see what is indicated by this word, okay? Now, when we think of the term education, you have to think of the education of a child, right? Education of a child. So the child should be brought up and nourished by parents, schools, and the society, right? Now here in education, we have aims and ideals, right? Now you can see the term, the word ideal means ideal character, the perfect thing, right? We mean the perfect idea. Ideals should be perfect, right? Then we have to get the best out of things, right? Once we speak about there are aims of education and we focus on ideals, right? Then right. Okay. Give me a minute, please. Just right. Okay. Sorry about the disturbance. Right. Let's start again. What does the word indicate, right? So we focus on aims of education and we have to produce ideals. That means the perfect things, right? We focus on the best out of education, right? Then we have to think of leading people, directing people for their good or the betterment, or we can just see the process. Now remember, and as you all know, education is a process, right? It says draws out of the best what is inside the child. So through education, we have to focus on getting the best which is inside the child, right? We always speak about focusing on the development of the child. Whatever the knowledge he has, whatever the skill the child has, we have to develop, right? So we try to get the maximum which is within the child. So educatum indicates the act of teaching and training. So because we need to get the best out of the child, inside the child, and then the act of teaching or training is important and relevant for this purpose. Right. you all have to think of the definitions of education. Now, today I am just giving you a few ideas related to the definition of education. Now, first of all, I should say it is a systematic process, right? A systematic process of gaining knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes through various means. That means different strategies and different modes, including teaching, training, and research. Yeah, you can learn through a research, you can get the training, you can participate in teaching sessions. So you can educate yourself. In the same way, we can educate children. First of all, we should know education is a systematic process if it is maybe planned by an institution, right? But there's another aspect of education. Can anybody tell me when you started your education? Yes. Jayani, what can you say? When did you start your education?
When we conceived,
Yes.
when we conceived in the womb, madam.
Right, a very good answer. Yes, when you were in the womb. Okay, yes, that's the accepted idea. The child starts learning when the child is in mother's womb. That's correct, yes. Then, when do you end it? Stop education. Chaturani?
It's a continuous process, madam. It won't stop.
That means throughout your life you have to engage in education, right?
Yes, madam.
Okay, yes, very good. Yeah, Mahatma Gandhi has stated that education is a womb to tomb process. That means from birth to death, right? Even before the birth, right? Womb to tomb. Tomb means the after the death, you will be in a tomb, according to some of the religions, right? Then it is a lifelong process from birth to death, at least, right? When did you start your education? The question, if I asked you, you know from birth. Then you started your education from home. At the very beginning, a child sees the immediate family members, including the most important person, the mother, and then start education, right? Then that's called informal education at home. Then starts the formal education at school at the correct age. And then there is a combination, formal and informal education both, because the child lives in the society. The systematic process is there at school, and then comes home and goes to the temple, meet his friends, right? From different modes, they get education, right? And after leaving the formal education institutions, the students or the individuals like you all, you engage in non-formal education. This is your non-formal education. You select the institution and you engage in education according to the study course, according to your requirements. You selected the timetables, you selected the mode of education, you selected the institution, the study course, everything is selected by the learner. That's called non-formal education, right? So you have to think of all these ideas when you define the term education, right? Then the education plays a vital role, a critical role in personal and social development, right? We discussed that the child's development should be there through the process of education from his birth to death, right? And the society's development as well. Why? If the child is developed, the society is automatically developed, right? At the same time, when we think of the systematic process of education, we facilitate the individual's education. The system facilitates the individual's education. So then the individuals can contribute to the society, the communities, right? They'll be able to focus their attention on developing the community, right? Giving their service to the community. So education is a very important concept. As teachers, we should understand it well. We should be able to define it well. At the same time, we have to consider the relationship between philosophy and education. Right. Now, the role of education in society. Okay. Right. Let's take the first one mentioned here. It serves the different functions, many functions in the society, right? We need education for socialization, skill development, and cultural transmission, right? Now, some people define the term education. It is the transmission of culture from one generation to the other, right? Like that, we should understand we can transmit the culture of a nation, culture of a country to another generation, right? Through the process of education. Then we need socialization, people. Now, at the very beginning, the child knows the people at home and around him, but later on, he comes to school and mix with the others, his friends, the school community. Right there, we need the process of socialization. At the same time, we need the development of the child's skills. Actually, not only the skills, we focus on some more aspects of the development, right? Now, then you have become the part of the workforce in the country. Through your education, you got the opportunities. So the education prepares people for the world of work, right? At the same time, education promotes social cohesion. Why? We can inculcate ideas within the individual. We can inculcate correct values and norms of a society. Especially, I think I have mentioned several times, we live in a society, we live in a plural society. Especially, we speak maybe two mother tongues, right? And we have different religions. We have different religious groups in the country. So then the cohesion is very important. The peaceful peaceful interaction between the different groups in the society. That's very important. So we can promote that peace and harmony among groups through education, right? So please understand, we need to accept the social norms which is relevant to the society. Societies have different values depending on the country's culture, right? Maybe different geography, okay? So according to the country's culture, we have to transmit, or we have to give the correct idea to the child. Okay. Then through education, we can empower people. People should be active, engaged citizens, right? Because now, once you get a job, all right, okay, now I have a job, I should keep quiet. You don't feel like that, but you have to think of your professional development as well. That's why you are following this type of study courses, right? And once you go to your job, you should be active and you should be engaged in your work. If it is a student, they have to fully engage in the education, the process of education, right? The students now, especially like these online sessions and all, we say students should be active participants, right? I think everyone, there are 20 of you, everyone is an active participant of this discussion, right? You can think of what you can understand, what you can contribute, right? Like that, where whatever you do, you should be active and engaged, right? Then, education is the development of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Yes, another idea. That's why I told you not only the knowledge, but we have different aspects of the student or the individual to be developed through the process of education. Basically, we say knowledge, skills, and attitudes. You all know the cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and affective domain. Once you write the lesson plans and then the objectives of a lesson, you focus your attention on these three aspects of the child, and you try to, you make an effort to develop all these three, including some more for the student to, they need those aspects also to be developed in order to live in the society, right? To produce a total person, right? Because we need to develop the cognitive domain, the knowledge-based intellectual skills, and the psychomotor domain, the necessary skills for the child, and the correct attitudes, the affective domain. Plus, we focus on social skills and personality traits. They are also to be developed. That's why we organize group activities in the classroom. We ask them to come forward. Then we can build up their personality, right? Not only the knowledge to be developed at school, right? In your lesson, in your classroom. You write your learning objectives or learning outcomes for each lesson. Then, by the end of the lesson, or especially at the end of each step, you have to check whether I achieved the target. I achieved the objectives, whether the child reached the target or not, right? Maybe knowledge. In one step, we focus on the knowledge. In the last step, towards the latter part of the lesson, we focus on skills. And then the attitudes, you can question and check whether they got the correct attitudes, right? So once you write learning objectives, you should be able to see whether you achieved them or not. Right? We focused our attention on the word reflection last week. So the teacher also can reflect on the lesson, whether the knowledge is developed, the skills are developed, attitudes are developed. Like that, you can think of all the aspects of the individual. Right. Now, the last line is for the general knowledge. Normally, people say education is earning a degree, right? We say that it's actually a narrower sense of the word education, but Bachelor of Arts degree, or Bachelor of Education degree, or Bachelor of Science, like that, we earn a degree, then people understand and people call us as educated people. Therefore, in some sense, education can be based on the certificates you get, right? It is another aspect of education, but people say it is actually a narrower sense of the term. Right. Then the philosophical foundation of education. Right. Now we know what education is, the role of education, and we studied what philosophy is. Now the relationship, how they help each other, right? Now we have to think of philosophical foundations of education. Okay, so based on that, there are different theories. Those theories influence the pedagogical approaches. What do you mean by the term pedagogy? Can anybody tell me? Pedagogy? Pedagogical approaches? Yes?
Teaching approaches.
Ah? Yes?
Teaching approaches.
The
Teaching?
method of practice in teaching.
Yeah. Practice, teaching, practice in teaching, right? Based on imparting knowledge, the process of education. Now, for example, we just say ELT pedagogy. That means teaching strategies and teaching practice of English, right? Like that, the philosophical ideas influence the pedagogy. Okay, that means the context of education, context of the practice of teaching, right? The learning process of the child, the strategies we use, right? Please understand that's an important term for you. And then I have mentioned only 3 philosophers, but there are many. Now, those philosophers such as John Dewey, Paulo Freire, Maria Montessori, right? They have proposed, because Maria Montessori focused on the preschool stage of the child. Yeah, this is the second lecture. So, Wandi, what is the problem?
No problem, madam. Thank you for the response.
Okay, you wanted to know. That means you were not here, not with us last week in the
Yes,
first lecture?
madam.
No.
Yeah, madam. Yeah.
Right. Okay, right. Okay, get the PowerPoint presentation from somebody if possible. Otherwise, tell me. Right. Then, though Maria Montessori focuses her attention on preschool stage. And there are some other philosophers as well. And we have to understand and study their principles, what they have put forward about education and the strategies. Right now, they actually have maybe different views, different ideas, how education to be structured, to be planned. And then, as John Dewey, he emphasizes experiential learning, right? And critical thinking, critical pedagogy, and the importance of respecting individual differences. So, these are some of the ideas which the philosophers have focused their attention on, right? Now, the term pedagogy implies a lot, because once you study pedagogy, it teaches us a lot about the teaching learning process, right? Yes. Then further about influence of philosophy on educational theories. Right. Now, philosophical ideas are important when planning and implementing the process of education, basically the teaching learning process. Now you can understand we have to we have to think of the educational theories. They are influenced by philosophy, especially the frameworks of the teaching process, right? How we have to plan the teaching process. So we plan them, all the countries plan them depending on the relevant philosophical ideas, the theories, right? And especially the curriculum development is also influenced by the great philosophers. So we have to, as teachers, we have to study those philosophical ideas and how the impact of them on education. At the same time, there are theoretical aspects like constructivism, behaviorism, and existentialism, right? They have drawn their ideas, right? That means they have put forward the philosophical foundation why we can use them when designing or planning educational environments and strategies. That means the process of education and the way we have to teach the child. Okay? Right. Give me a minute. I'll just show you about the right. Now, not the objectives here. I just included few ideas on constructivism, behaviorism, and existentialism, because these ideas are important for us as teachers, right? And then you should just have an idea. You can maybe according to this lesson, depending on the time, we can't discuss them in detail, but you can just have an idea of what constructivism is, right? Especially it says, or it tells us about the learner's active participation. But that means the learner has to construct the knowledge, right? Because the experiences are provided. Through that, the learner constructs the knowledge, right? Learners, they have to think of their own interpretation rather than becoming a passive listener, okay? Right, you also can think of that. Then behaviorism is a theory. I think you have learned the stimulus response theory in your psychology lessons, right? That means it's about the people's conditioning. The behaviors are acquired through conditioning, right? That means people interact with the environment, and once they react to the environment, they can think of or improve their behavior patterns, because there are stimuli, and then if there's a stimuli, and then the child respond to it. Okay, that's about the people's behavior, how the behavior is changing depending on the experiences or the situations provided from the environment. Okay, right. Then existentialism, it is a philosophical movement actually. Existentialism emphasizes on the freedom, right? Now, especially once you think of education, the importance of your choice is focused on, right? And then the self-awareness is important according to existentialism. And then you should help people to find their own purpose and think of their own values rather than we transmit it to the students, right? So then that's also another aspect of philosophy. There are more, but these three concepts are very important for teachers, right? Please understand that this is actually, we don't find enough time to discuss in detail, but you can have an idea about these things. They are important for the purpose of education. Right. Now, once I have to go back. Yes. Then we need those ideas. We think of those concepts. Why? The foundation. Those ideas, we can use the foundation for planning the education situations, planning the curriculum in a country. When we select the strategies for the teaching learning process, all these ideas are important when planning and implementing the process of education in an institution, right? Now, you all are teachers, and the other day we discussed that why a teacher needs to learn philosophy. Some of you, I think, responded well, right? Can anybody tell me about the necessity of learning educational philosophy, or the teachers to have a personal philosophy? Can anybody think? Right, okay. Now, once again, I mentioned the topic here, educational implications of philosophical ideas, right? So then, as a teacher, we need those philosophical ideas. As a country, we use the philosophies, the principles of those ideas. Okay? Why? We have to plan the education system and implement. Right. Then we emphasize on, especially once we studied the term philosophy, I think you can remember what we focused on. We emphasize on critical thinking, creativity, and ethical considerations, right? Those are very important for the teacher, at the same time to the student as well, right? Now, for example, can you just study the picture given here? Can anybody speak about the picture here? Actually, can you say this is a Sri Lankan context or in a foreign country?
In a foreign country, madam.
Yeah, what is the clue for you? What's the clue? Yeah.
Classroom.
Don't we have this type of classrooms?
Teacher attires, madam.
Yes, the teachers dress actually, even in the private sector, international and private schools, the teachers wear sari, a sari, and then this is different, right? That's one thing. Yes. What do you think of that teacher? What's she doing here?
Observing the students.
Mm-hmm. What are the students doing here?
They are working, discussing and working.
Yes, right? Can you see that they are engaged in the work or they are passive?
Yeah, active.
Active, right?
Okay.
Yes, they are active according to the appearance, right? Yes, and this is important for a teacher because now we mentioned that we organize group work or different activities in the classroom, and the teacher has to observe like this. If the
Guide
teacher,
them.
yes,
Teacher guide the students.
yeah, teacher has to guide them. Very good. First of all, guide them, ask them to engage in the activity, and then the teacher's task is observing them, right? Yes. Now, for example, you just organize group activity, assign them the task, and some teachers can sit and just wait. Some teachers go around the class. Some teachers observe the students well and give them the feedback, right? So then which type of a teacher are you? I just mentioned, for example, yeah. After assigning them group activities, what is your task? Quickly tell me. Yes, one of you, please. Hello, feel
Go
free to
around the
speak
classroom
here.
and give some instructions for students.
First of all, you give the instructions, then
Then go around the classroom to check what are the students doing.
yes, what they are doing, and then
Then after that, teacher give feedback about students' work.
yes, yeah, okay, that's right. What is this? Right.
Asking question also, madam.
Uh-uh.
Asking question also.
Yeah, you can
What
ask questions whether they are all right, whether they have maybe a sort of a problem, right? Whether they get the resources or the teaching learning aids distributed, especially the learning aids distributed in the class. Huh? Right, yes, maybe there are dominating characters. The teacher has to observe them, and
Yes.
they have to think of maintaining democracy in the groups, right? And everyone's participation should be there. There shouldn't be isolated characters in the group, right? Because in a group, if you just assign tasks, every individual in the group is important, equally important, right? Yeah, like that the teacher's duty is there. Then according to the teacher's way of thinking, the teacher observes children and gives feedback. Or teacher keeps quiet, all right, let them do the task. Huh? So your critical thinking is important. And when organizing the task, your creativity is also very important. And then the ethics, how you have to correct the students, how you have to interfere what they are doing, how we have to ask a question. All these are very important in the field of education, especially in the teaching learning context, right? So the teacher has to give them the feedback and you know how to tell it, right? And when you are giving feedback or when you are giving them the criticism, we just say you have to give them the constructive criticism, constructive feedback, not destructive, not to discourage people, right? Without saying that they can't do it. No, everyone can. So those ideas are to be inculcated within the child's mind. At the same time, as teachers, we should know how to speak to children, how to manage their problem. Earlier, we said that the teacher has to control the classroom, right? There was a term called classroom control. But nowadays, later on, we started using classroom management. That means you have to manage all the activities in the classroom. The teacher has to provide appropriate learning situations to the children, right? Like that, you yourself can get the maximum benefit out of those philosophical ideas, right? Especially, we can emphasize a lot, but you know, there are significant ideas for teachers like critical thinking, and your creativity is necessary for organizing the classroom activities. You know, two teachers are not alike, right? Two teachers are two different individuals. Depending on their creativity, they plan their activities for the classroom. When you are planning those things, you all know that you have to think of the child's level, their age, and their needs and interests. And then as one of you said, yes, the appearance of the classroom here, right? The resources available, and maybe the classroom is crowded, or you can't just make a lot of noise in the classroom. So like that, we are thinking a lot, right? Because the teacher's ethical considerations are also important. You think of the other classes, right? You think of the other people around. You think of the students in the classroom, whether they are hungry, whether they are uncomfortable, and without just doing a harm to anybody in the classroom, any student in the classroom, you understand what to do and what not to do, right? Then all these ideas are very important when we are planning the curriculum as well. The process, the implementation, and the planning, right? Then the intellectual growth and moral, emotional development, right? I told you about the objectives of the lesson. You think of the development of knowledge, cognitive domain, at the same time, affective domain, right? That's why we say there's the development of the child in a holistic approach, right? There's a holistic approach because you know those things are prepared, those things are designed, those things are decided based on philosophical ideas, because education develops the child's knowledge, the intellectual aspect of the child. At the same time, only the knowledge is not enough. I think we discuss it every day and everywhere nowadays, because the moral development is very important. And the emotional development, the emotional balance for the of a child is very important. Nowadays, all the teachers, actually now you are following a study course, Bachelor of Education, and please understand you get the certificate, right, at the end of your study course. At the same time, day by day, you are teaching. The way of teaching should be changed, right? That means you have to focus on knowledge development, right? Imparting correct knowledge, imparting necessary ideas, right? Imparting the knowledge to the students. Why? Because the system is still the examination oriented. The child has to face an examination, right? That's true. The children expect, the parents expect that. At the same time, through education, they need the skills related to the subject, right? When you speak about teaching English, you have to think of their listening activities, listening skills, writing skill, speaking, reading, all 4 skills to be developed. For that, they need opportunities to use that particular skill. If they want to develop reading, the child has to read. If they want to develop writing, the child has to write. Okay? So the teacher has to understand that. So the skill development should be there. That's true. And at the same time, the child's attitudes from each lesson, the teacher can think of the child's moral development, emotional aspect of the child. So some children are too emotional. So they have to think of balancing the nature, the problems they face, right? So then the teacher's attention, the teacher's help is necessary. Okay? So please try to be the change agent actually. Now we say the teachers are the change agents of the society. At times we feel that we are not successful enough, right? So please think of changing at least few people a day, at least a child, one particular person, right? You can attend to one particular person's problems. So therefore, please understand that philosophical ideas are very important actually for a person's life. At the same time, as a teacher, your career, right? Your professional development. So then we understand the philosophical ideas are important for us to think of different aspects of education like critical thinking, creativity, and ethics. At the same time, thinking of children, not only their knowledge or the intellectual growth, but also we have to think of moral development. Right. Switch off the mic if there are disturbances at home. Right. Next, we discuss critical thinking and philosophy in education. Right. What do you mean by critical thinking? Yes.
Making different ideas.
Yeah. Once again, please. Couldn't follow what you said.
Making different ideas.
Making different ideas. All right. Yes, you can think of different solutions to the same problem, right? Yes. Any other? That's good. Yes. Any other ideas from you? What do you mean by critical thinking?
Decision making.
Decision making. Yes, before making the decision, you have to think critically, right?
Finding new ideas.
Huh?
Finding new
Evaluating.
ideas.
New ideas, right? Okay, good. What else? Yes?
Different ways.
Not very clear, Putta. What is it?
Thinking in different ways.
Yes, you can think differently. Right. Yes. Now, you study philosophy, right? Different philosophers have different ideas. So we can't say this is better than that. Okay? But we can get the benefit out of all those ideas depending on different situations. Different situations, we make use of those ideas, right? Now, once you face a serious problem, there we need critical thinking. That means we have to analyze the problem, focusing on different aspects of it. We should be broad-minded and we have to analyze those complex issues, right? And after that, as you mentioned, we have to make the decision. That decision should be based on information, the facts you have gathered. Okay? That means you should be able to make the most appropriate decision, the correct decision. You can do that. Why? You analyze the problem first without being partial, without getting excited. You analyze the problem, focus on different aspects, and then make the decision. So, now here it's raining and I think you all can hear me. You can
Yes,
hear?
ma'am. Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now, think of maybe in the classroom, 2 students are quarreling, and then some teachers get excited and they, without thinking much, they try to solve the problem. That's a very simple question in your context. So like that, people jump into conclusions, right? People make accusations to people, the others. So, but first of all, if you think critically, that means you analyze the problem first and then come to a conclusion, right? Therefore, we have to encourage students, we have to direct students to think of that, right? Now, they can make assumptions, but you have to question assumptions, question on them. And then you have to explore the ethical considerations, right? You have to engage in reasoning, right? That means, in the modern world, living in the modern world is a challenge, not only for the students, but also for everyone in the society. So then we have to prepare the future. Once they become adults, the future will be more challenging for the children. Therefore, we have to train children for critical thinking, right? First of all, we have to develop our critical thinking skills, right? If you just incorporate philosophy into your life, philosophy into your job as a teacher, then you can enrich your ideas. Then once you integrate philosophy into education, you will be able to prepare people who will be able to face the challenges in the world, challenges in their future. Okay? Right. So people have to understand this. The teachers also have to understand these are very important aspects of your profession. Right now, as teachers, you all study in this degree program. You all study maybe educational psychology, educational measurement and evaluation, then educational guidance and counseling, right? Everything is related to education because they are directly relevant to your job, right? So once you think of educational measurement, you have to prepare the question papers, you have to prepare the assessment tools for the class based on the theories you learn. And so you can think of the child's mind once you study the psychology part. So then when you think of how we have to educate people, the philosophical ideas of education, here also you can think of changing the professional practice in the classroom, right? Changing the way of reactions, changing human interactions, right? Like that, you have to think of the students' skills development, then the students' knowledge to be developed, and the ethics or the attitudes to be development, right? So then we can produce a total person through the process of education. As teachers, you all need to be philosophers. Or we can say every teacher should have his or her personal philosophy. That means your personal philosophy is based on the ideas of great philosophers. You can select which is appropriate, which is very important, and you can select the places, select the situations where I can use Plato's philosophy, I can use Rousseau's philosophy, like that, John Dewey's philosophy in the classroom. So like that, all these philosophical ideas, at least the gist of it, the main ideas to be remembered and practiced by the teachers, right? So this is multifaceted because we learn these subjects for the purpose of examination, right? At the same time, for the purpose of our teaching learning process in the classroom, and for the purpose of assessing the children, right? For the purpose of contributing towards the national goals of the country. So like that, every week, maybe after each lesson, as a teacher, you have to add something new to your practice at school, right? So think of those ideas, and that will be very influential for your profession. Right. Now, for example, we can now, right. Now we discussed that there are different challenges for the children, right? We also face different challenges, right? You have to actually, the teacher also faces a lot of challenges. You have to balance your personal life and the professional life, right? And you have to think of the students' education. That means the teaching learning process in the classroom. At the same time, your education. So the teachers are eternal students. And we discussed that education is a lifelong process, right? You cannot stop your education. You have to engage in education throughout your life. Maybe you go for informal education or non-formal education, like this, right? So then, everyone faces different challenges. Therefore, now we have actually, and we have passed maybe almost 25 years now in the 21st century. But you know, UNESCO has defined the goals of education, maybe using different reports, right? What do you mean by the acronym UNESCO? What is it? UNESCO, what is it? Because UNESCO always focus a lot of attention on education.
United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization.
Very good. Yes, now you can get the idea. Educational, scientific and cultural organization. That means they focus a lot on education, lot on science, lot on culture, right? Yes, now here, according to their reports on education, right? Now, according to the particular report, Learning, the Treasure Within, then actually it is in 1996. It was in 1996, but it is used even now. We study even now about the 4 pillars of education for the total development, for the holistic development, right? Can anybody describe what these are? I think you know about them by now. Learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. Yes, just send me few ideas to the chat box about these. Right? Yes, what do you mean by learning to know? Learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. Just within 1 or 2 sentences, just send me your idea quickly. Take 2 minutes or select one and send me your idea. You can describe learning to know if you want. Yes? I'll give you 2 minutes, everyone. According to what you think. Yeah, those 4 pillars prepare the people to face the challenges in the 25th century. I think you know there are more and more challenges coming in.
Madam, learning to know, shall I explain that?
Yeah.
It's learning to know means gaining knowledge and understanding of the world.
Right. Understanding of the world, right?
Yes, madam.
Okay.
And it also focuses on learning, think critically and develop curiosity.
That's right. Very good. Yes. That curiosity actually makes every individual learn a lot. So then learning to know includes developing curiosity. Okay. Then another message, learning to do, getting knowledge to do. Do according to the knowledge. No, first First one is learning to know. What is your idea? Neelamani. Sentikant. Neelamani, Sentikant. What do you say? Getting knowledge. Okay. Learning to know means emphasizes on acquiring. Yes, you emphasize on acquiring knowledge and skills, right? Very good. Skills like critical thinking, right? The skills like analyzing the situations, analyzing information. Yes, learning to know means developing critical thinking and independent judgment. That means based on the information gathered, you can analyze the information and then come to your judgment, right? Yes, then learning to do. What do you say? Learning to do? Right? Now you said learning to know. That means you just said acquisition of knowledge. Okay? Getting the knowledge, developing curiosity, and then developing critical thinking. And then your ability to analyze a problem and come to a conclusion, right? Let's check. Yes, the way of understanding and getting to know the things we acquired. We get knowledge from the external environment, right? Learning to do. Some more ideas. It is developing practical skills. Yeah. And I asked you all to use the things we learn in the classroom. What do you call that?
Competencies, madam.
Yeah.
Developing
Developing
skills and
competence. Yeah, that's right. Developing competency. Gaining practical skills according to Yes Chamodi, meaning gaining practical skills and abilities to apply knowledge. That's what I wanted. Learning to do means application of knowledge and skills in practical situations, right? Yeah, that's good. You can you gather knowledge, right? And then you have to think of problem solving. You have to think of changing. That means the flexibility, adapt yourself to changes. Like that, you should focus on applying what you learned in the practical life. Learning to do a job of work, it should more generally entail the acquisition of competency, right? That enables people to deal with a variety of situation. Okay, yes, competency means if you practice something, it becomes a competency, right? Yes, in the general sense, right? If you have gained the competency means you can do whatever learned in any situation in your real life situations. Learning to do is developing practical skills through teamwork. Yeah, that is another aspect of Learning to do, gaining practical skills and abilities. Okay. Acquiring practical skills means you practice what you learned. Okay. Right. Yes. Learning to do and learning to know and learning to do. You can use both to be effective, right? Yes. Right. Then you can understand we acquire knowledge and then we put it into practice. Discover new things. Yeah. Once you put something into practice, you can thinking of getting more and more new things, right? Then learning to be. What do you mean by that? Learning to be. Or just say learning to live together. No idea about learning to be and learning to live together.
I think learning to live together means understanding others' mind and emotions.
Yes, that's right. Understanding others and others' ideas, emotions, at the same time respecting them. Okay? Not only understanding, Buddha, we need to respect. Encourage students to appreciate diversity. Very good, yes. Understand different perspectives and resolve conflicts peacefully. Okay. Right. Using all the skills, making a comfortable and convenient learning space. What's this? What's it? Rashini, you wrote about learning to live together. We need accepting others' ideas, right? Appreciate, yeah, diversity, that's true.
Having empathy, madam.
That's very good. Yes, having empathy. You know the difference between sympathy and empathy, right? Once you study or once you see a child, you have to feel like if I were the child, what should I do? If I were the child, I should suffer, right? Like that. So then you have to develop empathy towards the others, right? Okay. Yes, learning to live together. That means you have to think of a child's emotional intelligence, interpersonal understanding, intercultural understanding, right? These things are necessary, and then you have to think of developing the ideas related to empathy and respect towards the others, right? Because we are part of a community, right? We are part of a community and we are part of the world, and then we have to feel it, right? Make the child feel it and respect each other. Interpersonal skills are very important, okay? Here, learning to live together means developing understanding other people, appreciation. What else? Carrying out joint projects, okay, the teamwork, right? And learning to manage conflicts in a spirit of respect, okay. Right. Now, you know, in the classroom itself, you give them the examples, you provide them the learning situation, the learning opportunity in order to learn how to live together, right? Yes. Then learning to be, developing self-awareness, self-understanding. Okay. Everyone needs to exercise greater independence, judgment, combined with a sense of personal responsibility. Okay, good. Yeah, everyone should understand their own responsibility, right? Any other ideas? Learning to be?
Fostering personal development, madam.
Very good. Yes, focus on personal development. That means you have to think of yourself, right? And you know your development is important. The child has to think of his or her development. And then the person has to think of creativity, imagination, and if you think of learning to be, that means you have to have a meaningful choice in your life. Now, as teachers, without knowing all these things, as individuals, without knowing all these ideas or without just thinking much, you all do it, right? Now, you have a choice and you have selected your higher studies. In the same way, you select what to do and what not to do. And then you know that you can develop your creativity. You can think of the personal development, right? And then now think of as a person, how you have to behave towards the others. That means personal development includes everything, right? Okay, now you know, as teachers and as individuals and as citizens in a country and as global citizens, we have to focus our attention on all those four, and we have to think of the child's development focusing on these things as well, right? That means they should acquire knowledge. They have to apply what they have gathered, what they acquired, and then they should think of themselves. That means their development. At the same time, as global citizens, as members in the community, they should know how to behave towards each other and how to live together in a society, right? So then what do you think? What is the influence of philosophy on all these? As an individual, you can think of when you are learning something, you are applying your knowledge, there should be a philosophy behind it, right? When you think of self-development, you have a choice. When you interact with people, you develop empathy, right? Then based on your own philosophy, you develop yourself. You can think of including these ideas to your lessons, and whenever you guide children, guide students according to your own context, right? Please understand, even though we have passed now always around, we can just say 25 years, right? Still, we are in the middle, but anyway, we are in the 21st century, right? Then we face a lot of challenges. Nowadays, you know, the system of education faces a lot of challenges. You have to be very particular, very careful, right? As an individual, you can contribute to all these aspects, right? Minimize the bad consequences and maximize the good aspects of the child, right? Even within your classroom, I think I didn't tell this group, in the classroom, you are the authority, okay? Within the classroom, maybe you can organize the furniture according to what you want, right? Organize the seating arrangements. Maybe you can go to an open classroom, because within the 40 minutes time duration, you are the authority there, and you can just think of the child's development, all three aspects basically: knowledge, attitude, skills, and then try to develop and try to solve at least a minor problem if they have, right? Without just being the subject teacher. Okay, I can teach English. This is what they have to learn. That's all. No, we have to think of, because we feel what they think. We have to be empathetic. Then only your teaching will be successful. You can contribute to solve the problems in the society, at least to a certain extent, right? We can contribute, minimizing the students' problem. We can think of the students' mentality, their problems. Maybe they have different problems at home, they have problems among the group, or they have problems from the external parties, right? Like that. A teacher can consider all these things while you are teaching. I understand that we have a lot of clerical work as well nowadays, as most of the teachers complain. But at the same time, the 40 minutes time duration is for you, right? For you to think of the child's development, overall development, okay? Right, we discussed this. These are not objectives. That's a mistake. Right, now, based on all these ideas, we have to focus our attention on objectives of studying educational philosophy. Right? Now, from the very beginning, I think in these lessons, we always mention that studying educational philosophy is important. Educational philosophy is important for a country. Educational philosophy is important for a teacher, right? Educational philosophy is important for education managers, right? That means the sectional heads, the vice principals, right? Like that. So then, philosophy is always related to the questions or the problems faced by people. Okay? So then philosophy asks questions, right? So you have to study those questions. Okay? Now you can just see different questions. Philosophy exactly doesn't give you the answer, but you can get the answer through studying philosophy. Right. Then for what? How does it help us? Why do we need philosophy? Why do we study philosophy? Now let's take the first one to find out the solutions for various educational issues. Right. Now related to the field of education, you can find solutions. Now study the philosophical ideas. Right. We can apply this theory here. So like that, people can, from the authorities, from the managers to the operational level. We have to face different problems, different educational issues are there. We can make use of our philosophical knowledge to solve them. And number 2 here, to make education according to the need-based life and society. Right? What do you think? Now, you can understand that if you examine 2 countries, right? Now, when you discuss education systems in 2 countries, for example, we can say the target or the national goal of England, they just say they want to produce a real gentleman, right? And in Sri Lanka, we say we want to produce a total Sri Lankan, total citizen to the country. Right. Then, based on those needs, based on the society's needs and problems, we have to design the system of education in the country. Right? We can always focus our attention on the need of the human beings, right? And needs of the society. Based on them, we can make education. Now, at times we just say the system is not changed enough, right? Because, we are not ready to the world of work. We have to produce the people who can face the challenge of the world of work. Actually, the modern day world, right? Maybe we have to equip people with necessary technologies or the necessary emotions, right? Necessary soft skills, right? Because they don't know what to do and how to live in a society. So like that, philosophical ideas, if you try to follow them, if the authorities, when they are planning the curriculum, then they can make use of those ideas depending on the needs of the society. Right. Now, to determine the aim of human life, aim of survival. Yes. What is it now? To decide the aim of human life. The philosophy teach, the different philosophies teach us a lot how human life can be, how human life should be, right? What is the aim of human life? Why do we survive in the world, right? Because we just think that we are born to this world, we have to live happily, peacefully, and then comfortably, and then die. No, that's not the idea. So you have to think broadly. You have to get all these ideas and make them to the maximum and make use of them. And then you can decide on your life and make your life useful, not only to you, to the community and to the country. So then those ideas are very important for that aspect as well. To produce better citizens by fostering democratic attitude in behavior. Yes, I mentioned that in group work also you have to ask them to maintain democracy there, right? Because in a group what is the ideal number for a group work in the classroom? Yes? When you organize group work in the classroom, what is the ideal number? or the maximum number of students?
5, 6.
6, right? Yes, 6 is the maximum. If there are crucial problems, we go for 8. But 6 is the best, as we say. The smallest group is the pair, that's 2, right? You can go from individual work, pair work, and then groups of 6. Right? Within that group, you know there are different individuals. The people who are capable enough or capable of different things, maybe the activity given to them, then they try to dominate. There are dominating characters among children. And there are very timid ones. They try to be silent all the time. They cannot contribute. Sometimes people don't listen to each other. In the group work, you can emphasize on those ideas as well, right? You have to, when you give the instructions, the teacher can ask the children to listen to each other, help each other, respect each other's ideas, get the participation of everyone, right? If you are creative enough, you can do organized group work. For all 6 people should do something like that, right? You can have your classroom policies. That's why we say everything, every aspect of your teaching career, your context, you have to think philosophically and act accordingly. Because you know now, you can prepare a set of classroom policies, right? Not all of a sudden, little by little, and then ask the children, okay, all the 6 people should contribute. If you don't get everyone's participation, you won't get enough marks, or you won't get a star or something like that, the motivation, right? So that idea in a group activity will be influential once they become adults, right? The democratic behavior towards each other is important. The attitudes towards democracy in the country, democracy in the community, right? They are important. We can influence from the very beginning, from the school, okay? From the classroom. So think of those ideas, because you yourself might think that I can't change the whole world, I can change this and that. No, we can't change, that's true, even though we are called change agents, but we can contribute. We can contribute in my classroom, right? Because you know, for 40 minutes time, I can ask them to behave like this. I do this. Better not to do this like that. You can think of their holistic development, right? We always think of, even though this is examination oriented, our system is examination oriented, that's true. But when you are imparting knowledge, when you are teaching grammar, for example, even then you can get enough examples for them to get the good practices in their lives, right? So these are important, okay? Then the last one here, to make teaching learning process more effective and attractive according to the need, interests and ability of the child. Yes, we always speak about it. As teachers, you all know about it, right? Why? Because you know the lesson should be effective. If the lesson is effective, because you can attract everyone, right? Attract everyone's attention. And you know, the teacher's part is to get everyone's attention to the lesson. If there are 45 children in the classroom, all 4 to 5 are equally important. But in some teachers' classrooms, there are fringe areas, we say, right? That means those areas are not observed by the teacher, especially the back rows. Especially some children like the back rows, right? Why? They are not properly observed and they can do whatever they want. And the two sides maybe, right? But as a teacher, you have to determine that I have to maintain eye contact with everyone. I have to observe each and every child as they are important. You know, parents trust us. They send the child to school. Why? They expect the teacher's attention to my child, right? I send my child and I expect the teacher's attention to my child. If the attention does not go to the child, maybe today, tomorrow, maybe never. So then what happens? You do not focus the need of the child, right? What they like and their abilities, because you know there are children with exceptional abilities and there are, you know, children maybe, for example, slow learners. Like that, you have to think of while you are planning your lesson, you have to think of the different levels of children, different nature of children. Their abilities are different, their needs are different, right? So then the teaching learning process should be effective. Why? The teacher focuses on the needs, interests, and abilities of children. So you can't do a miracle within a day. It's really difficult for the teacher to change a lot, but little by little, maybe for tomorrow's lesson, you can add a little change and see how effective it is. And next day, another one. Like that, the strategies you learn, the methodologies, and the philosophical ideas you learn, and the assessment procedures you learn, you can add them little by little into your lessons. Then you will be an effective teacher. We always think and we always advise the teacher should be influential and effective. Okay? Therefore, as teachers, you have to focus your attention on educational philosophy and you have to develop a personal philosophy. Right. Then, the next idea about objectives here, to discern the different philosophies and choose any one of them to lead a fruitful life in the society. Okay? Now, there are different philosophies. You can select them. And as I said, you should be effective as a teacher, as a professional. At the same time, you can think of your life in the society, right? Expanding knowledge and experiences and implement them in educational practices. Yes, now that's what I told you earlier. You gather knowledge about different subjects, you get experiences, and you just speak about people's experiences, and you can just get examples from your own classroom, and you can practice what you learn in the classroom, right? To bring out all-round personality development in child and prepare him to stand on his own feet. Right? There's a mistake here, misprint. Right. Yes, that means you have to develop confidence within the child. I discussed that children are at different levels. Their needs and interests are different. Therefore, the teacher should be clever enough to address all these and think of their personality development. You know that you know the subject matter. You have learned English, maybe you have learned some other subjects like science. You know the subject matter. However, if anybody asks you to, okay, you know the subject matter, go and teach your classroom, you go and teach grade 9 classes, that's all. No. We, from time to time, you are trained as a teacher. Maybe the initial NCOE training or any other Bachelor of Education training in a university or maybe in another institution, right? So then, why is all these? Why is that? Because the teacher should understand, teacher should gain enough ideas, enough knowledge, enough skills, right? Enough attitudes to think of the child's personality development. I mentioned that you have to think of, when you are writing lesson objectives, you have to think of cognitive, affective, psychomotor domains plus personality development and social skills or the social factor, right? Why? For the holistic development, for to think of the total citizen, right? To develop their personality, we need all these, right? And make the person confident enough to do or engage in whatever the work he is asked for. Okay? Right. Then make education flexible. Flexible to do what? To achieve the goals of national integration or international understanding and globalization. We discussed the global citizen. We are part of the globe, right? And we are a community member. So then there are national goals of education in a country, right? And then we have national integration, international understanding, and globalization. So we have to focus on all three, basically. There are more because they should live in the family, they have to think of their private life. All these are there. But here we focus on national integration, think as a member of the nation, member of the particular country, and then the international understanding, think of the other countries and how we transact with the other nations, and then the globalization, part of a global village, right? We think that we are members of global village. So those ideas are important, and education should be flexible. Why? Depending on the country's situation, we should achieve the national goals of a country. Okay? To develop education as a powerful instrument to bring about social, cultural, political, and economic change in society. Right? Yes, that means education. Now, that they are actually interdependent. You should understand the interdependent nature. Now, for example, when we plan the curriculum, when we plan the system of education in the country, we should get the experts in the society, experts in the maybe the economic sector, sociologists, right? We speak about we get the people's assistance about the people who think of the culture of a country, the political ideologies, like that. We have to get the influence. get their contribution. At the same time, education can influence on all these aspects. Education can influence political situation, politicians. Education should influence the culture of the country, the social development, and the economic situation. So all these things can be changed through education. But that education system should be powerful. Otherwise, that won't happen, right? Social development, social change won't happen. Economic changes won't be there, right? Therefore, we can understand that the education should be a powerful tool. It should be powerful enough to make changes in different aspects in the society. So, the planning and implementation of education should be powerful. You know, we get the curriculum, we get the national goals, we get the maybe the competencies relevant to the grade and the subject. So we have to study them well as teachers, right? And then contribute to develop the child in different aspects, right? Yes, I think you all can understand those objectives, why we study educational philosophy, right? Education, the system of education is designed, is planned according to different philosophies. Then it will be powerful enough to change the country. Okay? Right. Our conclusion quickly. Yes. Now you know the relationship is multifaceted. That means it has different aspects, especially each discipline enrich the other. That means they are interdependent, right? Philosophy influences education, and through education we can produce philosophers, right? So like that. Then understanding philosophical concepts enhances educational practices, as we mentioned. And we can promote the critical thinking and appreciation of knowledge and values, right? Social norms are focused on according to the philosophers, right? And especially critical thinking is necessary. And how you use different disciplines, different approaches, different strategies in the implementation of your lesson, practicing your lesson, right? That should be, we understand all these lessons should be interesting to the children. Child should be interested in the lesson and their participation. They should be engaged in the lesson, their curiosity. All these things are important, right? Then philosophy influence another aspect of education, that is the educational frameworks. That means the planning in the contemporary society. That means needs of the nowadays society. They are considered when planning the education and how it is implemented. Okay, so then please understand the interconnected, interrelated nature of education and philosophy, right? Philosophy can influence a lot on the system of education in a country. And then philosophical concepts are very important when developing people and especially teaching learning process in the classroom, right? We can make use of those ideas when we practically teach in a classroom, right? And then you can think of an effective education system of the country. There should be that education system should be based on different philosophical ideas. Those ideas can address the needs and problems of the prevailing society. Okay? Right. This is the summary of the 2 sessions, right? That means the last lesson and today's lesson for your benefit, right? So philosophy is, finding the truth, understanding the knowledge or the getting the wisdom, right? So you have to understand the nature of the term philosophy, and it has 3 branches. There are more, but in our lessons, I focused on only 3 here. Metaphysics, epistemology, and axiology. Epistemology deals with knowledge, and then metaphysics deals with reality, and axiology study about the values. Okay? And especially axiology has 2 main branches called, we can just call them ethics and aesthetics. You know, both are equally important. Then ethics means study the moral values and the person's conduct, person's behavior, and aesthetics with our appreciation of beauty and art, right? So they are very important for the person's life and education. And education is a social process. That means especially we focus on formal education here. It focuses on transmitting its knowledge and developing skills and developing values from one generation to another. That means we transmit knowledge from one to another, like that. And as I mentioned earlier, in the narrow sense, we may be getting a certificate completion of a study course, right? So that is also education. And we can mention you start with informal education just after the birth, or maybe in the mother's womb, right? And then first of all, informal education, then formal education, and after that, non-formal. Then we understand that education is a lifelong process, and application of philosophical principles are very important in the field of education. Why? We have to plan the system of education. At the same time, we have to solve the problems, right? Solve the problems regarding education. They are complementary to each other, means they are interdependent, right? Then philosophy helps us to decide on the aims of education, the methods of teaching, roles of the teacher, like that. And then you can say philosophy gives us the theoretical guidelines, right? And the next part. Right, yes. Here I have given you another help actually for your benefit. Right, okay. I got the usual request from you to share the PowerPoint. I'll do. Then according to this glossary, you can once again study the terms we discussed here. Try to get at the correct meaning, right? There might be different angles, but you have to think broadly. Actually, as teachers, as philosophers now, you have to think of different aspects. You don't ask the child to look for the answer. There might be different answers. Now, for example, when you are teaching grammar, If you just take one word, you can't say this word is a verb. This word is an adjective. This word is a noun. No, you have to tell them that the word is what it functions in the sentence, what it does in the sentence, right? So, for example, I got the example the other day as well, the word close. You can ask the child to close the door. You have close friends, right? And so there might be some more meanings like that. Therefore, you have to be broad-minded, even get the children to be broad-minded, and then the education of the country will be successful. And as teachers, as change agents, you can contribute at least to a certain extent to change the teaching learning process, to change the attitudes of children, to change yourself as well. Okay? Right. Then I think I have to just stop sharing this, or you can go through the glossary given, and then you have to learn all these ideas carefully, and you can make use of them in your classrooms, right? Yes. Now this is the time for me to do the yes, I'm trying to share this with you, right? I mean the PowerPoint presentation. Give me 2 minutes, and if you have any questions, now you can ask. Any questions or suggestions? Hello? No questions? No, any problem? The only problem is getting this, the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, I always include more and more details, right? Because, it will be easier for you all to study it and get at the correct idea, right? That's why I included included the slide on the constructivism and all. Yeah, give me 2 minutes. If you don't have any questions, just wait. Right. I got that slide to the correct place, I think. Okay, done. All right. If you want the first lesson, you have to wait for a while. Right. Okay, I shared it. Just see whether you can see it or not.
Yes, madam, we can see.
All right, okay. Now I am trying to send you the second one for your benefit. Second one means the first lesson, right? For absentees. Okay, then thank you for your responses and waiting, and see you next day. I think it's 14th, right?
Okay.
Yes, madam, on Saturday.
Okay, right. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you,
Good
madam.
night.
Yeah. Okay, I shared the last one as well. I mean the last. All right. Okay. Okay, then see you on 14th. Good night.
Bye, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Good night.